The Fancounters Celebrity Podcast, number 154. Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast.
You were like the carrot top of interviewers.
Wow, how disappointing was that question?
You did not just ask me that.
It's a very big question.
Never mind, I'm done. I'm not doing the show.
Wow, I can't believe it.
I'm telling you, I'm hooked.
Nick.
Yeah, he's so awesome. He's so a good friend of mine.
Welcome to the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast. My name's Nick. You can find us on social media. If you go to Instagram, follow us at Fancounters Live. We're also on Facebook if you search Fancounters. And we have a private Facebook group called Sharpie Nation. Now, our reunion for the new Leave It To Beaver is just about over. We've pretty much found everybody or heard most of the stories that are out there. And we're going to close with this one, unless we get Ellen Maxted on the show. We've tried a few times. She played Eddie's wife on the series, The New Leave It To Beaver. If we get her, we'll bring her on. But otherwise, I think this is we're coming to the end. And Brian Nelson Jr. is here with me. Brian, thanks again for being here.
Oh, thank you, Nick. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And so you found another producer of the show and an editor. We had Gail Chandler on in previous episodes to talk about her editing experience. But the man who hired Gail is going to be joining us today.
Yes. And his name is Herbert H. Dow, is what you would recognize in the new Leave It To Beaver credits. And when I was looking for his information, I kept on coming across the guy that started the Dow Industrial Company, which you would recognize that name on the stock market. You would recognize that name on cleaning bottles. Go into the grocery store, look at cleaning bottles, and look for the name Dow in a red diamond, and you'll see the name Dow. It might be different now, but the name Dow should be on the bottle. But yeah, no relation there. And Dow, Leave It to Beaver.
You'd think Tony.
You would think
maybe his brother.
Maybe his uncle.
Not the case, though.
Not the case. In fact, Tony cleared that up in an interview we did with him last year.
Today we're going to hear a story about a major mistake that Herb did during an episode of the new Leave It To Beaver. So you can hear it here and go look for it in the show, because our friend Scott Hetrick has been nice enough to post the episodes on the new Leave It To Beaver, Still the Beaver Facebook page, which Brian is the manager and founder of. And so you can check that out there. But anyway, we've got a lot of great stories with Herb today. I think his wife was cooking.
Yeah.
When he was on the show, because there's a lot of banging around at some point. And but anyway, we're going to work through it. The audio's, we gotten picked on for phone audio before. Today's no exception to that. But we do hope you enjoy the stories throughout the process of making dinner. And here we go. Let's get it going with Herb Dow from the new Leave It To Beaver. Herbert H. Dow, welcome to Fancounters. Thanks for being here this week.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I love to tell tales of the old editing days.
As you know, I run the new Leave It To Beaver, Still the Beaver fan page on Facebook, and we were wondering, or a lot of the members are wondering, how did you score your first project in television, and how did it lead you to TV shows, and how did it get you to Still the Beaver?
It's a long tale. I started at Desilu. When Lucy was running the lot, there were three lots: Desilu, Gower, Culver, and Cahuenga. I was on the Gower lot where Lucy's office was. They were shooting Mission Impossible, Star Trek, and here's Lucy. And my first job was hot splicing the commercials into the release prints for those shows, 35 millimeter and 16. And carrying film from which I was an apprentice. Back then, there was an 8-year rule. You had to be in the union 8 years before you could edit.
Wow.
So it was, the joke used to be you could go to UCLA med school and be cutting grains quicker than film. But the normal route, I carried film around, very heavy, an hour film. An hour episode with 12 reels of 35 millimeter film.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And you had to be tall because you could hold the top reel under your chin if you were walking. And dropped a few here and there. You learn. But I assisted on a bunch of different things, too many to remember. I got to co-cut on a couple of movies of the week. I got my first credit on a movie of the week. I became a Group 1 and head of post-production at Columbia. Somebody called him and asked, looking for an editor for a new show out at MGM. Well, MGM was still a studio. And so I went out there to cut a television series called Lucan, which was about a boy who turned into a wolf and solved crimes. It went 7 episodes. I cut 3 movies. California Dreaming, and
Sunny
what
Side.
are the other ones there?
Sunny Side.
Sunny Side. Okay, that's interesting. That was Joey Travolta, John's untalented brother.
His untalented. Okay.
And The Incredible Brain, The Adventures of the Incredible Brain, The Great Brain. Yeah. Okay, that was a movie starring Jimmy, the untalented Osmond brother.
Boy, you get all the untalented brothers.
Yeah.
Sure enough, James Osmond.
I don't think any of them are available. I cut 10 pilots. I was 10 for 10 on pilots.
Not getting
and
picked up.
0 for 12 on series. Last 3 series I did prior to Still the Beaver were for a producer called David Gerber. I did 7 Brides for 7 Brothers and a couple other series. And my deal with him was if the show was picked up for a second season, I would get to direct. And then the last pilot I did for him, I have to say actually 10 out of 11 because this one the pilot sold, but the star was Dean Martin's son. And the pilot was sold, but between pilot and shooting, he killed himself in a single plane crash.
Ooh.
And my deal on that one would have been, I got to direct the first season, but it didn't go.
It didn't happen either. It's really funny, Herbert, because you worked with a lot of the brothers of the big stars or the family members. Just like we get the people who worked with the A-list stars, but the A-list stars aren't coming here. It's their co-stars that join us. I know what you feel.
It was something I loved it. The ones at Culver's Studio, that's where I did the FBI. I had the best cutting room I ever had. I had a ground floor corner room, big picture windows. My car was parked outside my window. My assistant, his room, for my room, he wallpapered the whole wall so it looked like I was on a beach. Put up a beach mural.
Uh-huh.
And casting was 3 doors down from me. And actors, actresses would go in, they'd hear the music. I played loud rock and roll music when I edited. I always did. Back before digital sound, you couldn't do it when you're using digital sound. But at that time, it didn't interfere. And they'd walk back, sitting there editing film, and half the time they'd come in and I'd teach them how to edit. It was just fun. I had fun. But that pilot didn't go. So they had another show out at Universal. Somebody called me. This guy had a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, that was Street Hawk, they called it.
Street Hawk, thank you. 4 days in, I have a scene with Bianca Jagger and his character actor. I seem to remember his name being Rafe Newhouse, but it might not be. But anyway, and they were both so bad that when she started talking, I had to cut to him to fix her dialogue. When he started talking, I had to cut to her to fix his dialogue. And so I went into the office, the production office, and said, look, I'll finish this episode. I'm out of here, the head of post-production. He said, why? I said, well, the show's and you've got me working in a closet without a window. The cutting room's a universal note. The assistant and the editor were both in this same closet without windows. And he said, "Oh, okay." I said, "My assistant can take over and he'll do fine." In fact, he did finer than anybody. He went on to cut Lion King, and when went over $100 million, Katzenberg came down, gave him a check for $50,000, and said, "Here, you got half a point."
Wow.
Lion King. And he made like $100,000 a year for years. He probably still is, and he couldn't carry my scissors. But anyway,
you know who was in Street Hawk though? Do you remember the big star in Street Hawk?
No.
He wasn't big then, but he was not. He is now. George Clooney was in that show.
Doing what?
It says he was Kevin Stark.
Huh. Wow.
He looked a lot different though in 1985.
Oh yeah, I'll have to look. I didn't cut that episode. I know.
Oh shoot.
But yeah, unless he was a cast member, a normal cast member, he might have been.
I don't know.
I don't know back then.
He did Roseanne after that, so.
Oh yeah, so it wasn't long. Yeah. But anyway, he said, "Oh, hey, we're doing this new show. It's called Still the Beaver. It's a return of Leave It to Beaver." And he said, "And it's over in the Oakwood Apartments, and they have windows." And I said, and he said, "It's on this fancy new editing system." And I said, "Okay." So I went over to see it, and I think it was U221 in the Oakwood Apartments. And here's this gray-haired old guy, white beard, long white hair, suspenders, wearing suspenders, a fellow named Adrian Ettlinger. And Adrian Ettlinger is CBS scientist who actually has the nonlinear patent. He created the first nonlinear editing system, the CMX 600. And he had subsequently left CBS. Also, he had the patent. He developed instant replay also. Anyway, he had left CBS, and he loved working with editors. And so he'd build a new editing system. And at the time, it was called VidiCut.
When I was researching your career, it was tough to find you because your full entire name is shared by Herbert Henry Dow from the industrial company.
Dow Chemical.
Dow Chemical is correct. Do you have any ties to them? Are you related in any way?
Here's the tie. When I was at UCLA, I stole a book from the UCLA library. It was The Life and Contributions of Herbert H. Dow. And I had it in my apartment, and I used it as a dating ruse.
Did it work?
My wife, who I'm still married to, laughed at me. We did end up, we've been married.
But also,
57 years, yeah.
I'm sorry.
How many? 57?
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. That's great.
That's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Speaking
55, excuse me, 55, yeah.
55. Is there any relation to Tony Dow? And Tony cleared that up in our interview with him when we talked to him last
Tony,
year.
he's older than I am.
Is he Uncle Tony? Well, he said you were his brother now. He said you call each other brothers, yeah. Then when we were talking to Tony, he also told us you were talking about that new editing process when you were working on. He had said that you had come up, or maybe you had started working with. Maybe he was remembering it in a different way, but he had said that you had come up with an editing system that was more efficient than it was in years past. How did that system impact editing, as time went on?
That was 85. In 3 years, 80% of scripted television was being edited on what we renamed the Ediflex. That's how much it changed the world. Basically, we had competition with montage, but the TV market we totally controlled. And it was based on a very interesting thing. What attracted me the first day I met Adrian, he had put in what's called a script mimic. And what that enabled you as an editor to do was say, let me see every performance on that line back to back. Let me see every performance on this line back to back. Let me put it together with this line and that angle, that line and that angle, see how it plays. I don't like it. Let me change it. The best performance thing was absolutely needed for the Beaver. He could not carry a line across the street, or he couldn't carry a line across the room. He could not act. And so his performances you had to piece together. Everybody else in the show could act. But Wally, the Beaver, could. What's his real name?
Beavers is Jerry Mathers.
Jerry. I work with his brother in the digital camera thing. Anyway, Jerry could not act. The system, what he'd set up was 6 VHS decks. Each of the tapes had the same thing on them. So that the first line, they might have 30 minutes worth of dailies on the tape, on each tape, an hour's worth actually, worth of dailies on each tape. The same hour repeated 6 times. So that if you made an edit, you hit play. The first machine might play the first cut and then drop offline high speed forward or backwards to find where it needed to be again. And then it might play the 5th cut or the 8th cut or the 10th cut. If the cuts were a normal rhythm, as in dialogue, it would play pretty much all the way through.
We talked to a friend of yours, Gail Chandler.
And she was the first outside assistant we hired.
Yeah, and she said that she didn't spend a whole lot of time on the set. She did, she worked 8 days a week, and she didn't get a whole lot of time to go on the set. Were you able to get on the set, and was it part of your work process for you to go on the set to see how you were going to edit things?
The big thing, I would go on the set for coffee if I needed a shot. If I had a question about a sequence, if I needed inserts, I would generally direct them. That was about it. I didn't spend a lot of time. I was on this set a couple times a week.
Okay.
Actually, for work things, I'd go by there if it was close for coffee more often.
Right.
You mentioned you would do pickups, like if you were editing a show and you needed something that wasn't there or a line reset or that sort of thing. Was that easily done, or did you have to work around it?
What I would shoot, I could direct inserts, the hand picking up a coffee cup, that type of stuff.
Okay. How often would it happen where you'd have to ask them to totally retape a line or a scene or something?
Very rarely.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought, because that'd be expensive.
I'm trying to think of a time, and I can't. Even with the absolute start would have been, you got to do something about Bianca Jagger and Ray Newhouse.
So during the course of the show, you had a couple of credits. You were an editor for a lot of the time, but you also had some producing credits.
We produced a movie.
You produced
The Bus Is Coming.
Oh, you did?
I was still an apprentice at that time. A black music apprentice, Horace Jackson, had this great script. The Bus Is Coming. It was about race riots in Compton. A white cop killed a black boy, and his brother comes home to find out who did what. And the buses weren't running. That's why the bus is coming. The end of the movie, the little boy's running down the street yelling, "The bus is coming, the bus is coming." Because there's a blind black musician who likes to ride the buses. And the bus is finally coming, and peace has been, declared, as it were. And when the bus pulls up and the doors open, I was the bus driver.
Oh, so you had a cameo appearance.
I got the title role in my only screen career appearance.
There you go.
Budding talent, his career was cut tragically short by lack of talent. But we made that movie for $5,000 cash. I stayed working at Paramount so that when people called KCALB, that was our company name, black spelled backwards, they would get Paramount. Like we needed a crane at a church in Compton. When they called Paramount to book it, or when I called from Paramount to book it, it was no problem doing stuff like that. And we shot it all in short ends. We never had a roll of film longer than 400 feet. I got all the short ends from Deluxe Lab.
Oh, okay.
And we used an SC film crew. And we burned tires to make smoke. And it could have been made last week. We thought when we were making it would make a change. And that was 1974, There haven't been many changes.
It's amazing that you would even contact a movie studio for something with a budget of $5,000. Now, I get it, it's $5,000 dollars, but still, that's not a great sum of money for filming.
We had to pay for the crane. We had to pay $300 for the crane. I remember that. But we used an SC film crew. We didn't pay for anything. We didn't have it. But here's the sad part. So we premiere the only print we have at Compton High, and then the next night we four-wall a theater for the next week. That's where we can get money from running it. And we do it at Wilshire Theater, and nobody comes.
Oh.
And so we got this distributor, Stuart Harnell, name I remember, Hip Distributions out of Atlanta, Georgia, and he took on distribution. And a month later, headline the Variety, bus wow, first loop lap. The next week, bus rolls through Atlanta. They discovered a black audience. We came out between Sweet Sweetback, a badass song, and the first black one of the first three black movies they discovered. It made $18 million, and we got nothing.
Oh, man.
Who signed that deal? Oh, man.
We got charged for sweeping the street out in front of, theaters in Chicago, and all these charges and prints and yeah.
Wow. So someone made money.
We were going to make more movies. It's actually available on YouTube.
Oh, the movie is now, hey?
Yeah. Somebody sent me the clip they saw it, sent me the clip where I'm getting off the bus, just a frame of it. And I posted it on the editor thing saying, in his only screen appearance, promising career cut short by an incredible early lack of talent, et cetera, et cetera. But we got a great New York Times review. It was a good movie.
Have to look at it.
We do have a particular question on an episode of the new Leave It To Beaver. It's one called Violet Rutherford Returns. See if you remember this one.
Oh, wow, yes.
Okay.
Who was that came back, actually? Who was the actress?
Veronica Cartwright, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So we just were kind of curious about inserting that young Violet Rutherford scene from Kissing Beaver on the cheek to the present day shot that you used. Maybe talk a little bit about the process of putting old footage with new.
We had just picked, the director or the creative team had picked, the script and what we were doing. And they had an archivist find the shot. Universal had the negative. So we just had them scan the negative for that shot, that sequence, and it was loaded into the Ediplex, and it was just an S. I don't remember if we timed it or did anything special to it because I don't remember the shot.
No, that's
I remember her coming back. And that, my father-in-law was an editor,
Oh, okay.
And he was watching a cowboy movie one day at home, and a bad cut went by, and that's when he remembered he'd edited it.
Oops.
He remembered making that cut. The guy in his close-up turned one way to get off the horse, and in the wide shot, turned the other way.
Maybe no one will
had to go
notice.
from close to the wide shot, and there was nothing you could do but make a bad edit.
Yeah.
I made one of the worst in Still the Beaver.
Oh, do tell.
I made one. Oh, it's the one with Ray Walston teaching her piano.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Oh, next time you look at it.
I'll look at it tonight.
Okay. Watch what happens to the handkerchief when he's wiping his glasses and she's playing piano, and the whole thing with the handkerchief.
I'll take a look.
and especially Nick calls me from the stage, Herb, oh my God, you've got to get down here. And he said, we got to fix that cut. And I said, what? And he said, run it. And he ran it. And I said, what? What's wrong with it? He said, run it backwards. And he ran it backwards, and boy, you can see the cut is bad. That was the other thing. It was fun. We had a lot of fun. One of the things you could do with the Ediflex, I wanted to see how fast you could actually edit by saying, I want this line and that angle, this line and that angle, not even looking at it, and to see how it would play. And just as I was starting, I said, oh, you know what, I ought to see how fast I can do it. But I want to cut every line off camera. So I put the show together. It took me 18 minutes to cut a 23-minute episode just by doing this that way. And so I made a copy of it. And I go over to run it. And I've got both copies. I got the one I cut and then this one. I put that one in first. And Brian Levan's sitting on the right side of me, Nick's on the left. And Brian gets it and just starts laughing so hard it's quiet. Nick sitting there with that, what do you think you're doing? This doesn't. You see Brian laughing. I get it. It's a joke. Oh, this is really funny, Herb.
I kind of thought you were going to do the opposite and say that he loved your fast cut.
But
yeah, no, he says.
It was an amazing machine, and that's the way I saw it. So that got me out of the editing chair. Other than I cut the first movie of the week on it, which is a whole nother tale. My first cut was 14 minutes short, and they had finished shooting, and it aired in 3 weeks.
Oh,
that was fun. We went out and shot B-roll for a week. Cars going by. It was about a guy who drove. It's called the Gladiator. Guy who chased drunk drivers down because one of them had killed his family or something. I don't even remember. But we went out and shot B-roll, cars going by, and truck chases and that. And I worked 114 hours from 10 o'clock Sunday morning to 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon. When my wife came in the room and said, you killed my father, you're not going to kill my husband. Because her dad died of a heart attack in the cutting room at Warner Brothers.
You know, when you get to work on such iconic things and you have so many memories about your career that you loved, I mean, you're one of these people who get to do something that you really enjoyed. Do you do any digital editing now? Have you kept up with technology?
No, I've not cut anything, but as you see, I'm working with Bebop Technology, which is putting editing in the cloud. That's what I'm doing now.
Wow.
We've remote workstations for editing graphics, and we do all the NFL. Every camera from every NFL game goes into the Bebop cloud, and they have like 80 editors and 70 graphic stations, and it was sort of, I got people off of film with the Ediflex and into the electronic age, and now I'm taking them into the cloud. It's sort of fun. I'd love to have been able to cut at home, just because I had thoughts at home.
Oh yeah.
If I could have walked out, sat down at the dining room table, and fixed that sequence.
Yeah.
It would have been done.
I always cut in Culver City, it seemed like, and I lived in Mission Hills. And my thing was I'd go in early in the morning. I'd leave the house at 6 so I could get in and get work done before you had to start saying hello to people.
Right.
And I'd leave early. Well, it would have been nice to work from home, leisurely go in at 10. The only time we rented a cabin in the snow was over the Thanksgiving week. And the family went. I was cutting a pilot about a stupid dog at Paramount, Benji, or no, Boomer.
Boomer. It was Boomer. I saw this on your resume.
Yeah, God. And I'm stuck in the room so the producers can drive in from their Thanksgiving week, stand behind me in the cutting room. I'm fixing. We had a real problem. The lead actor, couldn't walk and talk. I mean, serious.
He didn't go on to do much, so.
No, and so it ended up, they were going to be the family. And the interesting thing is the mother is June Cleaver was in Boomer.
Okay.
Whatever the actress's name is.
Barbara Billingsley.
Barbara, thank you.
And
Barbara
so was the guy from Happy Days, the diner owner, Al Molinaro?
He was a character.
Pat Morita?
Actor. No, the lead in the movie, I don't know who it was, but what happened was originally Boomer was going to live with the family. That family was going to be the family. And he was so bad, they decided that Boomer was going to travel between families. And so I had to go to the loop stage with him. And the last scene, he's in the Santa Claus suit talking to the dog. I don't remember the original dialogue, but we had him loop in. Well, Boomer, it's been nice having you. We know you're going on to other families. That's when he found out the dog was staying and he was going in the series.
That's funny.
He changed his dialogue under the Santa Claus beard. That was Boomer.
Now, in ending our conversation, I'm wondering, and I asked this of many of my interviewees of the show. We've lost a lot of them through the years. Barbara Billingsley is gone. Frank Bank is gone. Last year we lost Dennis Snee. He was a writer. We lost Ken Osmond this year. That do you have? I know. Do you have any memories of those individuals?
He was a nice guy. He really was. Very personable. Just green with the cast, and nice people.
Did they ever not like something?
We didn't screen a lot of times with them, but nobody ever. No, I don't remember any actor ever complaining.
I felt a juicy story there.
We saved their careers. Come on.
Yeah.
Yes, I always say that editing is the unthanked role in a movie making or a TV making, because they are the finishing touch of the show and they make it look seamless.
Or really seemed if they wanted to. It's amazing. The way you can some of the editing now is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Because you found out you can make really short cuts work.
And in
when
fact,
you're
Eric,
on film, you
couldn't
do that because the splices wouldn't show. You made a mistake.
Yep.
That was the other thing about Ediflex. All of a sudden, editors, if they wanted to add 2 frames, they could. You had 2 frames on a film show.
Oh yeah.
You jump in the projector. I've had directors or producers that had trouble with that scene.
Yeah.
Because the number of splices.
Yeah, and Eric Osmond is an editor today, and he works in that high-tech editing field now.
Oh, what's he edit?
At that point, he was working on a McDonald's commercial, but he had also
he works on commercials, yeah.
Yeah, but he had done a film very recently.
Okay.
It looked like he worked on the superhero movies, Captain America and Thor.
Oh.
Where the Wild Things Are. That was that one that I was thinking of.
Right.
So yeah.
We appreciate your time. We loved your stories, and
the history.
And the history, exactly. It was fun talking to you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you very much. It brings back great memories. The stories bring back all the memories now.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a fun ride. It really was. Editing is, I love it.
My thanks to Herb Dow for joining us on the show this week. Good stories. You know, while we were talking, Brian, I actually did Google the Ediflex editing machine, and it is quite a system. Multiple machines and a big rack on one side. He's got a couple TVs in the middle with the players that he's using to edit and record, I'm sure, and more stuff off to the right. It's crazy. You should Google the Ediflex editing system, and that is a history lesson in itself. Thanks again for joining us this week. Again, if you want to email the show with any guest suggestions, if I get them on the show, you can be on the show. Email them to hello@fancounters.com. That's going to do it for us this week. Come back next Friday for another celebrity guest here on the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast.